Go on, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Google for today's breakfast briefing session. My name is Louisa Niedon. I work here at Google with some of our larger Irish-based advertisers who focus on export. My role here today is a little different. I am kind of like one of those unskippable ads you get if you're watching a video on YouTube. So you're kind of a captive audience and you have to listen to me for about a minute or so before we get to the stuff that you've really come for today, which is all about YouTube. YouTube is much more than just a place people go to watch videos. We have over 1.9 billion logged in users per month on the platform, but it's also really a community. So people engage with the content that they are watching. And we have tried to think how we could sort of bring that to life a little bit in the room here today. So you may have noticed the paddles that are on the seats. Very pleased to see some people have already been taking selfies with the paddles. They are so much more than selfie props, as you will learn. So we're going to try and use these throughout the course of the presentations today. There'll be some questions. You'll see one side is green, one side is red. You can also, if you're feeling brave at any point, if you violently disagree with something that's being said, feel free to show the red side up to the stage. If there's something that you think, oh, this is just what I've been waiting to hear for, feel free to show your appreciation by showing the green side, and there'll be some questions as well where we'll ask you to participate. So we might do a quick little dry run of the paddles. I know it's early in the morning for audience participation, so I promise it won't be too painful. So we'll start with an easy question. Please raise the paddle if you have been to one of these breakfast briefing sessions before. Oh, look at that. Right, so you probably know this stuff better than I do. The way the day is going to run is we'll have content for about 45 minutes, then we'll leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end, and we'll have everybody out of here by 9 o'clock. After the event, you'll get a feedback survey. If you fill that in, you will then get a link with access to all of the slides and content that you see today, if that helps anyone who's furiously note-taking for the next hour. So the end of me is in sight. We will move to introduce the presenter for today, Kelsey Bowers. We're extremely lucky to have her here. She's one of our leading global experts at Google on YouTube. She's been working on the platform for about 6 years. She's currently here in Ireland working on the UK and Irish markets, but has also been working with advertisers and agencies in the US and in Canada. So please join me in giving Kelsey a very, very warm welcome and enjoy this morning.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Kelsey, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about YouTube. So before I get started, I'd love to just get a feel for who I've got in the room. So again, I want to ask you to get out your paddles, and if you've ever used YouTube advertising, could I get a green paddle here? Okay, so a decent amount of you. Perfect. Has anybody ever used YouTube for action? Okay, few less. Okay, perfect. So that means we're going to get a lot of new content here in the room. And then just for all the rest of you, does anybody watch YouTube? Just personally watch videos on YouTube? Okay, good. Okay, we've got at least base here. Perfect. Okay, good. So what I want to do, and just make sure you're still awake, because I know it is quite early today, we've got 2 searches here on YouTube, and I want to see if anybody can guess these. So no paddles, you can just shout out some answers. So these are youtube.com in the search bar from 2008 until today. Anybody have any guesses what these are? Anything?
U.S. presidential elections.
Presidential elections, okay. Anybody else? Cat videos? That's actually a really good guess, because one of them is cat videos. If you look at the bottom here, we've got cats, and then the blue line we've got how to. So I know YouTube traditionally has been seen as something that you go to for entertainment. You go to watch cat videos, and you still can definitely get cat videos on YouTube. But it has evolved into so much more, and it's something where we're really going to learn things. You're learning how to do something. We've got a great article on how millennials are learning how to cook on YouTube. And what we've seen is that this really reflects the evolution that we're seeing across the digital video industry. So if you look over time, since we started showing ads in 2007, there's been a huge shift in the number of users and creators and uploads. But where we want to focus on today is more down here at the bottom. And that's how people actually are interacting and engaging with the platform. So if you remember back in the start, if we can think back that far, that's when the world really was desktop only. That was your only option to watch YouTube. And then we had the year or years of mobile. And then we started to be able to stream back to your TV if you wanted to. And now we're at this place where people can seamlessly switch between a desktop and a tablet and their Xbox and their TV and still engage and have that same experience with YouTube. And so what we see is that this is only going to continue to evolve. In fact, Cisco says that by 2021, which is less than 2 years away, 82% of all consumer internet traffic will be spent on digital video. That means 82% of your customers' time is going to be spent on video. What are you doing to make sure you're there where they are? And to put this number into perspective again, that 82% is the equivalent of 5 million years of content consumed every single month. And we know it's not all just cat videos. It is a lot more than that. It's more than just entertainment. And so within this, what we know is that not all of this 5 million years and that 82% is going to be made up of YouTube. There's a lot of things out there. There's the likes of Netflix and other streaming services. There are social. But we do know that a lot of them will be on YouTube. In fact, if you look at this, today, we have more than 1.9 billion monthly logged in users. That's 1.9 billion with a B. And of those 1.9 billion, they're watching more than an hour a day on just their mobile devices. So how many of you would say, I know everyone said that they watch YouTube. How many of you watch from your mobile device? Okay, a lot of you. Perfect. We're going to put it to the test. If I can have you all pull out your phones. A little audience participation here. So if you pull up your phone and open up your YouTube app, in the top right-hand corner, you can click on your picture and select time watched. And you can actually see how much content you consume. So I think my daily average is 1 hour and 24 minutes. Can anybody top that? Anybody have any watch time? I heard lots of whispering. Anybody want to shout out a time? 15 minutes? Oh, 32 minutes. Anybody more than 32 minutes? An hour 32? Can anybody be an hour 32? Yeah, I think the most I've ever seen is 3.5 hours. Perfect. And so I think this is fun, and I hear a lot of giggling in the audience. It is good to take a look at this. And I think sometimes it's hard to imagine just how much content we actually consume. So when I think about my behavior and how I watch YouTube, I like to watch it in the morning. So this morning I was up a huge soccer fan, so I was watching videos for the World Cup. We've got a big game on Sunday. So I was watching some interviews for that. I always watched it throughout the day for my job, but I tend to watch that more on my desktop computer. And then when I go home, I do use it to learn how to cook, and I use it for entertainment while I'm cooking, or just throughout the day. So I think it's crazy to see how much content that we actually watch. And what we know is that this is really only going to continue to evolve. So if we look at today, 24% of the global population are millennials. And I want to pause there because I think millennials get a bit of a bad rap. Typically, millennials are seen as that people who've just graduated from college, they're pretty broke and they don't have much going on. But in reality, millennials today are on the cusp of planning their 40th birthday. They're a lot more than just those broke college kids. And if we look at 6 years from today, 68% of the global population will be millennials or younger. That means that 68% of the population are going to be digital natives. These are people who have grown up with technology. They've grown up with the internet and smartphones and streaming services. And what this seismic shift in demographics means is that there's going to be a huge shift in how we're going to be able to engage and interact with our users. So what I'll ask you is, if this shift is happening in just 6 years, are you ready for that? Are you ready for the digital natives to really take over the environment here? Well, we know for a lot of people this can be a really big change. And so what we wanted to do was help you to bridge that gap between this huge shift towards digital and specifically towards digital video, and then also a shift towards businesses that tend to focus more on objectives that haven't necessarily aligned with video. So I know traditionally video has been seen as something that's great for reach and awareness. Now, how many of you would say that is your main objective as a business? Or your client's main objective if you're an agency? Okay, we've got like 5 paddles here. Okay, how many of you say, nope, I need to see the money. Show me the ROI, the ROAS. That was a very, very aggressive wave there. I like that. Okay, perfect. So we recognize that a lot of businesses were like this. And so What we created and what I'm going to talk about today is YouTube for Action. And so with this, again, we saw that huge shift towards digital video. And we also recognize that a lot of our clients and a lot of our consumers really do care about that action. They want to make sure that they're actually having people do something, not just viewing those videos. And so with YouTube for Action, what we wanted to do was focus on 3 key areas to really drive action in video. And so the first one is audiences. What we wanted to do was, really simple as it sounds, target people when they were ready to take action. And so what this meant was actually pulling in Google search signals for the first time into YouTube. The second thing that we wanted to do was add new formats. So again, how can we do more beyond just that view and impression? And while we are still continuing to innovate in that area, we did want to create a whole separate area for action and how you can get people to actually take action in the ad itself or get to your website where they can quickly take action. And then finally, we wanted to prove that it works and optimize towards conversions. So what this involved was a huge overhaul to the backend to be able to accurately track conversions from YouTube, and then adding in new bidding formats so you could bid towards conversions rather than just views and impressions. And so when we were creating this, what we asked ourselves was, what would happen if you could target someone on YouTube after they had just searched for what you had to offer? We know that search isn't going away, and it's a really great way to drive intent. If I go and search for women's black leather boots, odds are I'm probably looking to buy boots. And what we know is that people are already doing this. About 55% of people will first go to Google to search for something, and then go to YouTube to learn more about it before they actually make a purchase. And what we also know is that even really strong search campaigns can miss shoppers. So how many of you would say, I predominantly use search when I'm looking at Google? Okay, most of you. Perfect. Okay, so you'll know what I'm talking about here. So what we've got here is a standard search campaign. We've got a 10% click-through rate. That's a really, really well-run search campaign, well above our best practice click-through rate. What that also means is that 90% of people who are searching for your brand, for your product, for your keywords, aren't actually able to find you in this specific environment. What we also know is that once people make it to your site, odds are they're not going to convert the first time they make it. About 96% of people will actually leave a website without doing anything the first time they visit. So what we have here are really strong signals of intent, people who are searching for you, people who are making it to your website, but we can't quite reach them with what you're currently doing on search. And this is where YouTube can come in. We know there's about an 85% overlap between people who are searching on Google and then people who are watching videos on YouTube. And then, of course, we are on video. So this is your chance to really show off and explain your business. You can use sight and sound to tell a story about what your business or your brand or your service is the service they should be doing business with. And then with our new action formats, we're going to make it really, really easy for them to actually take that action. And then what you want to do is focus on a platform where people are paying attention. If you're going to take the time and the money to invest in creating a video and running a campaign, if people aren't going to pay attention to it, it's not going to be very effective. So when we look at YouTube here, we know that people are 2 times more likely to pay attention to an ad on YouTube versus another social platform. They're 3 times more likely to pay attention to an ad online versus on TV, and 95% of all ads on YouTube are viewable and watched with the sound on. So this viewability metric is one I want to focus on here, because as you get into video, it is really, really important that you look at this. So is anybody familiar with what viewability means? Okay, no one? That's okay. A couple of hands. Perfect. So for the rest of you, viewability is defined by the digital marketing industry. On video specifically, it's seeing at least 50% of the pixels, so at least half of the ad on screen, for at least 2 seconds. So the industry average is 66%. And other social networks can be as low as 30%. So 95% is something we're really, really happy with. And then, of course, we are going to be talking about YouTube for Action, so I do want to talk a little bit about the results today as well. And what we've seen in the last 12 months since we've released this platform is 150% year-on-year increase in conversions driven by YouTube. So we are seeing the results off the back of it as well. So today, then, what I want to focus on is talk a little bit about our audiences and how we can reach people when they're ready to take action. Next, get into the format so you can see what these ads actually look like on the platform. Talk a bit more about the action bit of YouTube for Action and look at how we can measure this. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up the rest with a little deep dive into creative and how you can get started and some best practices around creative for today. So first, looking at audience. And I know this may sound really, really simple, but the first thing that you want to do is reach audiences who are likely to do business with you. So as I said earlier, for the first time ever, we actually incorporated Google search signals into this. So all of those keywords when I'm searching for black leather boots, we're pulling those in. And the second thing that we're doing is looking at the rest of Google, which at any one time is 7 platforms with more than 1 billion users each. And so what that results in is a lot of data. And then what we do is package it into audiences that you can come out and say, here's the profile audience I want to target, and we have audiences ready for you to use. Now, if we got into all of these audiences, we'd probably be here for the rest of the day, and I know we've got a quick time limit here. So I wanted to highlight just a few of either the new or the improved ones that we've built off the back of this. So the first one that I want to highlight is affinity and in-market. So can I get a quick show of hands who's tried this before? Because this one's been around for quite a while. Okay, good. So we've got a few hands here. So for those of you who aren't as familiar, affinity and in-market have been, this is one that we've improved on. So they've been around for a while. An affinity is someone who has a qualified passion for something. So for example, I fall into the avid newsreader category. I've got 10 news apps on my phone, and I'm constantly connected as to what's going on. And then when you're looking at in-market, these are people who are actively looking to buy a product or service. So I'm currently in the market for a trip to Norway because I'm actively looking to book a holiday there. And so with this, as I said, what we added was 3 new signals, so search, play, and maps data, to increase the reach and frequency by about 15% of these categories. We're also constantly adding new categories. About 3 weeks ago, we added 25 new in-market categories. And the second audience that I want to highlight today is a new one. So these are life events. And what we found is that there's certain periods in a person's life where everything that they're thinking about, shopping for, caring about, searching for, totally changes. So if you think about when you get married, when we'll all hopefully one day retire, when you get a new job or graduate, everything that you're doing changes. So what we've done is given you the ability to target 3 months before and 3 months after these events. And the next one I want to highlight is another new one, and I think this one's really cool because it's a bit different from what we've been doing in the past. Whereas everything else is focusing on online behavior, this focuses on what you're doing offline. So if you frequent coffee shops or live events or go to the salon a lot, you can now target users based on their behavior. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about my favorite, which is custom intent audiences. So with custom intent, what we've given you the ability to do is target someone based on their Google search keywords. So again, if I'm going back to my example where I'm searching for women's black leather boots, if you happen to sell those, you can create a list of keywords to target on YouTube, and within 7 days of me searching for that, you can show me ads on YouTube. And then as soon as I stop searching that, I'm dropped after 7 days. And only people who are continuing to search for your keywords are the ones you're actually showing ads to. So unsurprisingly, this also drives some of the best performance. We see about a 30% greater conversion rates from this type of targeting than any other targeting. My one advice to you, if you're getting started, is don't stop here. This one's really, really good, but it can be limiting depending on the keywords you're looking at. If someone searches your keyword 20 times a month, it's going to be really hard to try and build a campaign off the back of this. So start here, but definitely look at other audience options. Okay, so we've looked at our audiences, and I want to take a quick peek at how these can actually be used. So this is Vavavoom. They're an Irish retailer based in Dundalk. And what they wanted to do was use YouTube to drive sales revenue. Now, I know if anybody's looking at that, sometimes sales revenue and YouTube don't go together, but they definitely can with action. So what they did was set a 10-to-1 ROAS goal, and we're able to achieve a 1,409% ROAS off the back of this. And so with this, the way that they did this was leveraging in-market, so people who were actively looking to buy their products, and custom intent, people who were searching for what they had to offer. So we've talked about our audiences. We've looked at this. Now I want to look at these formats and what they actually look like. So when you're looking at YouTube for Action, this is a broader bucket that encompasses a number of formats. And right now we've got 2 that are widely available. So the first one that we have here, you can see in the middle, is TrueView for Action. And with TrueView for Action and Forums ads, both of these will build off of a traditional ad format. So I know you all said you've watched YouTube. So does this sound familiar? You go to YouTube, you watch a video, an ad pops up, you can skip it after 5 seconds. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, okay, big yes in the room. So that will stay the same. You'll still have the ability to skip the ads after 5 seconds. What we've done is made it really easy for someone to actually do something within the ad itself. So if you look at TrueView for Action, what you'll see here is this big gray bar and blue button. With this, it gives someone the ability, once they click on it, to get to your site, where hopefully you've got a landing page where they can easily fill in a form or read some key information or make a purchase. So this is completely customizable. You can make it whatever you want, learn more, get a quote, buy now, my personal favorite, get pizza. So you can definitely get creative with that. And then we also see as this cycles through here is an end screen. So that blue button will make an end screen that will stay on the screen for 5 to 7 seconds, where again, people can click through to your site, and you'll also have a companion banner. So this one, if you're feeling really inspired, is available in every account today. So you can go and set it up after this talk if you'd like. The second option is a beta. And so these are for people who are really looking for leads. They want to collect customer information or leads. Do we have anybody in the room who's looking for leads? Anyone? Okay, a couple of you. Perfect. So that's what this is designed to do. So rather than seeing that blue button, what you'll see here is this send me more info button. So once the user clicks on this, if they're like the 1.9 billion people who are logged in, it will autofill with their name, phone number, and email, or any combination you choose to collect. They'll then submit that, and that can integrate in then with your CRM system, where you can then contact that user, whatever you've chosen to do with that information. This, again, is a beta, so less available, but if you are interested, just talk to your Google team. The Vavavoom example that I showed earlier, they use the ad in the middle of the True View for Action format. So we've talked about our audiences, we've talked about what these ads actually look like, and now for the action bit of YouTube for Action, and that is looking a bit at measurement. So what we know, and what I've seen today, is that everybody has different goals. Some of you do care about branding, some of you care about leads, some of you care about the sales. And so what we recognized is that with action, it can mean different things to different people, so we've given you the flexibility to measure what matters most to you. So when you're looking at these, we broadly put it into 3 buckets. So the first is all conversion actions. So if you can track it with the Google Ads tag, you can optimize towards it for YouTube for Action. So anything from sales, leads, views of a key page, calls, anything like that, you can track with YouTube for Action. The second is looking at store visits. So this, again, is a beta, so limited availability. But if you have a physical store presence, what we can do is track once someone engages with the YouTube ad and then physically goes into your store. And then last but not least is brand lift. So I know we have been talking a lot about action, and action and brand may not necessarily align within your mind, but what we do know is that all video drives brand. We might just be looking at more of the consideration type of brand. And so with this, we're Google and we love data. So what we've tried to do is give you some data behind that impact of improving your brand. So this, again, is a beta. If you're interested, let your Google team know, and we can get you access to it. So again, another quick tip I have here is while you've got 3 different buckets that you can measure within, and I highly recommend trying to measure everything that you can, you want to optimize towards 1. Trying to optimize towards sales and brand awareness is really hard, if not impossible, to try and do within a campaign. So as I said, optimize towards 1, but you definitely want to look at the broader picture. Because what we know is that while action is designed to drive actions within a video campaign, and it does do a really good job of that, unsurprisingly, action drives better performance than any other type of ad on YouTube. But we also know is that there's going to be a lot broader impact. So if you are looking across these, what we know is that just running a YouTube campaign alongside search improves your conversion rate and drops your CPA on search. What we also know is that we see an improvement in your brand consideration and purchase intent. And then finally, we ran some studies with Nielsen to understand the impact that ads have offline. And what we found is that 70% of YouTube campaigns drive a significant lift in offline conversions as well. So while you might be measuring and optimizing towards 1, you will definitely see a bigger picture when it comes to YouTube. So again, I want to show you a quick example of someone who's taken this to measure multiple things along the funnel. So this is FitFlop. They are a UK-based retailer. They sell footwear. And what they wanted to do was branch into the US market. And so if you know anything about the US market, you'll know that it is extremely competitive. There's a lot of very well-known brands within the space, and it's going to be fairly expensive to break into. So what they wanted to do was try and drive new customers and brand awareness. So again, they used that True View for Actions, that ad that was in the middle format here. And what they saw was on customer acquisition, equal customer acquisition on par with their generic search activity, and a 58% lift in brand awareness. So saw impact on both ends of the spectrum. So we've talked through our audiences, we've talked through the formats, and we've talked through action. So now the last thing, and probably the most important thing to look at, is creative. Because we can give you the perfect audience and have all of your conversion actions set up perfectly. But if someone looks at your ad and goes, I have no idea what they sell, or if they look at it and go, I'm bored, I'm skipping after 5 seconds, then they're not even going to give you the time of day, it's really hard to make your campaign effective. In fact, everyone from Nielsen to Ipsos to Harvard Business Review has said anywhere between 50 to 80% of the success of the campaign comes down to creative. So I know a few of you had said you're running YouTube right now. How many of you would say, I've got a great creative that's built for YouTube? Got one no. One yes. Okay, perfect. So not to worry, what I want to do in the next 10 minutes or so is give you a quick recap of what an effective ad on YouTube looks like. And I will say, you are totally qualified to talk about these things and what I'm going to talk about, because you're the consumer. It's really easy to say, you know what, I'm really abruptly being sold towards, or I still have no idea what it is that you sell. You can definitely still use that lens. And what I'd like to share with you then is a few quick considerations to take into account when you are looking at YouTube. So what we have here is a really cool team who, in my opinion, have the coolest job at Google, called the Unskippable Labs team. And what their job is to watch thousands and thousands and thousands of ads and to figure out what works and what doesn't when it comes to YouTube. And then they put these findings to the test, and they actually do a ton of research on what works really, really well, specifically within the YouTube environment. So what we want to consider here are two things. So the first is what works well on YouTube as a whole. When you are building for YouTube, it's a very, very different environment than when you're building for something like TV. And the other thing that you want to consider then is, what's the goal of your campaign? So if you're building for something like awareness versus something for action, you will see some pretty different results, and you want to have a different message to get that across. So first, what I want to take a look at is the viewing environment. So if you're really interested in this, if you go on Think with Google, we publish a ton of articles from the Unskippable Lab teams, and I definitely take a look and diving into that. But what I want to focus on today is just the 3 big areas that you need to consider when you're looking at YouTube. So the first that you want to do is build for mobile. About 70% of all traffic on YouTube comes from this device. This device is a lot smaller than, well, hopefully your TVs aren't that big, but a lot bigger than this. And it's going to be a very, very different environment than what you've been building in the past if you do have a creative that's built for TV. So when we are looking at building for mobile, the first thing that we want to consider is it's a smaller device. So you need to make sure that the framing's tighter. Can people actually see your product when you're doing those long sweeping shots? You want to try and zoom in on faces and the product itself. We also know that the vast majority don't have full brightness on their phone. Odds are it's turned down so they can try and save on their battery. So you want to make sure that people can actually see it, even with a dimmed screen. You want to make sure things are really bright, that your text is bold, that it's big and easy to read. And you also want to focus on faster pacing and cuts. And what we have found is that if you do build for mobile first, even if it does show on a giant screen like this, it will still perform the same. If you try and build for a giant screen like this, and then show on mobile, it won't really work. So definitely build for mobile first. The second thing that you want to consider is using sight and sound. So what we know, I guess with this, what you want to do is just basically encourage people to choose to watch your video and then continue to choose to watch your video. And so as I said earlier, what we know is that 95% of all ads can be seen and heard. And with this combination, we know that people are 2.6 times better consideration when it comes to these ads. And so with this is really your ability to leverage this to try and win that attention. And so sight is pretty easy to understand here, so I do want to focus on the sound. 95% of all ads are watched with the sound on. So what that means is you don't want silence. Anything you can do with sound will work. If you're doing voiceover, if you have music, if you just have sound effects, you just want to have something there to fill that empty space. And last but not least is win in the first 5. As I said with these formats, people have 5 seconds before they can skip your ad. So what are you doing to engage with that user? How can you capture the intention of the right user to make sure that they're the ones who are sticking around to watch your video? So again, there's tons of examples that people can use. I've seen a lot of comedy or connecting on the emotional level, or sometimes it's just solving a problem. But I think the best way to see this is to take a quick look at an example. So what we've got here is the same creative looking at two completely different ways to build. So have you all seen Wonder Woman? Okay, good. Lots of yeses here. So what I want to take a look at first is a traditional story arc. So as I'm sure you're familiar with, the movie industry is really, really good at telling stories, and they have got a lot of experience in making ads. And so the first one that we're going to play here is something that's designed for a traditional story arc and something that you would see on TV. So can you go ahead and play the first video, please?
Diana, fighting does not make you a hero.
What if I promise to be careful? Just a shield, then.
Diana.
No sharp edges.
Be careful of mankind, Diana.
Perfect. So this is something you're probably all familiar with. You hear a slow build up. You even hear the music go along with it where it starts to slowly pick up the pace. And then you can see the longer cuts where they're really telling a story. And in the first 5 seconds of that ad, the only word that you heard was Diana. And then it slowly started to build. And then if you go ahead and play the second one here, this is something that is built with YouTube in mind. Bit different. Yeah, she's literally busting through a window. And while you don't need to have necessarily someone diving through a window, although that is definitely going to capture attention, what you saw is that even the music was really faster paced. It was really aggressive. And what you saw was really fast cuts. So it wasn't those long, drawn out scenes of the mother and daughter. It was really quick cuts between all the action. And so, while this is a very extreme example, it's something that you want to keep in mind as to how you can take the exact same story and use it in 2 different formats. So that's building for the platform. You're building for mobile first. You're making sure you're using sight and sound, and you're winning in the first 5. So those are all principles that you want to use when you are building for action or for any other type of format on YouTube. So the second thing that I want to do is focus a bit more then on the action format. And so when it comes to building your objectives, again, we've got a lot of resources out there on awareness, but since we are focusing on action, that's what I'm going to focus on today, how we can drive that direct response from YouTube. So again, can I get a quick paddles? Do we have anybody from creative agencies or any creatives in the room? Okay, we've got a couple, so I will apologize ahead of time. We did try to do a bit of a templates here, which I know templates and creative are a bit cringy. But what we found is that, again, we've watched thousands and thousands of ads on action. And what we found was there was really 3 key storylines that we saw throughout a lot of these ads. So while you don't have to be stuck to these 3, if you are trying to get started, these are really, really great examples as to how to get going. So within these, again, 3 variations, what we found were the explainer, the product demo, and then the straight offer. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what these actually look like and go into a bit more detail here. So the first is the explainer. So this is your pretty classic, you have a problem, our product can solve it, here's what you want you to do. So you start off with a problem statement. So if I'm going back to mine looking for boots, you can just start off with something like, hey, looking for shoes? And then you have your product solution. We have shoes, we have boots, this is what we do. You can then go into some benefits and explain why your product and why your boots are the boots I should be buying. So maybe you've got great waterproofing. I do live in Dublin, so that's something I want to consider. Maybe they're free shipping, things like that. Next is you want to have a call to action. So you want to direct people to do something. This is an ad. It's okay to tell them to do something. They're expecting that. So with this one, it could be come to our website, visit our store, buy now. Something simple. Just tell me what to do at the end of it. And then, and this is probably the question I get the most, is how long should my ad be? Unfortunately, the answer is, doesn't matter. You can kind of play around with it. We do have some minimums, so you do need to make sure it's at least 12 seconds long. But where I would say I see the vast majority of people is between 15 to 20 seconds. So what I would recommend is the problem statement to the call to action. Try and get that in about 15 to 20 seconds. And then if you want to keep talking about it, so if you want to, I don't know, show me a demonstration of how great your boots are or have a lot of models walking around in them, you can keep going. You just want to make sure you get that first bit in quickly in the first 15 to 20 seconds. And then for those of you who are really interested, you can keep going. So again, I want to show you a quick example of what this actually looks like. So can we go ahead and play the next video? that's your explainer. Too busy to think about dinner? Try our box. You can say, try it now. Then it goes through the benefits. It's easy, it's fresh. And then you have your call to action, try it today. So it's really simple, really easy, not a high budget creative, but really, really effective when it comes to an action format. So the next one that I want to take a look at is the product demo. So this is very, very similar to what you would see with the explainer, except you don't really need to try and draw people's attention. If I'm buying boots, odds are people know what boots are. I don't really need to be explained as to why I need them. So you can just go straight in. It's more show than tell. And so what you'll see is it comes straight in with a problem. So here's our boots, buy them today. Here's our boots. Again, you can talk about the benefits. So we talk about, if they're waterproof or the free shipping, things like that. Then you have your call to action. Again, you still want to direct people. So buy today, come visit our store, things like that. And again, you can keep going. So with this, I'm going to show you another quick example here from Birchbox. So if you can go ahead and play the video.
With Birchbox, you receive a curated box designed to make discovering new beauty products fun. It's easy. Fill out your profile, and we'll send you a personalized mix of the best in beauty, just $10 a month. Visit birchbox.com to sign up and choose your free welcome gift.
So again, it doesn't really explain what Birchbox is. It doesn't ask you a question or have a problem at the beginning. It just leads straight in with Birchbox, you receive a curated box. And then it explains the benefits. And this one I will call out has a really, really strong call to action. It's go to their website and sign up today for a free gift. So again, pretty simple, very similar to the first one, but just that slight difference at the beginning. And then last but not least, we've got the straight offer. So this is when really just your sale, a promotion, a coupon, that's all you need to capture their attention. You don't need to explain, you don't need to catch their attention, you just go, boom, 50% off, come in and buy today. Now what I personally would recommend is that this works really well if people have heard of you before. If you come in and say, hey, 50% off, and they have never heard of your brand before, people are gonna be like, what is happening? I'm just gonna go ahead and skip that there. So you wanna make sure people have heard of you. So this is really good if you have a bit higher brand awareness. And also is this maybe a second creative? So if you've shown them an ad previously, they've engaged with your ad, maybe use this as a remarketing, they've heard of you before, and then this is what gets them to come back and to actually make that purchase. So again, show you a quick example here. If you'll go ahead and play the video. So again, leads straight in with get rewards rich, first snack or drink free. It's from 7-Eleven, but it never actually really told you that until the end where it had the logo at the bottom. You never see any of the benefits of their store. If you've engaged with them in the past, you might know, hey, they sell Slurpees and I can apparently make a bath with them. But you don't really know anything about the brand. It doesn't really explain it. So again, this is good because odds are you've probably heard of 7-Eleven in the past. At least maybe that's a bit more American, and I've definitely heard of that. But that's where you want to engage here. So again, we've got the three different formats, the explainer, the product demo, and then the straight offer. So you don't have to stick within these three. These are just three really common themes that we've seen work really, really well with action, and hopefully that will help you get started. And so I know just presenting this to you, if you have absolutely no creative, can be somewhat intimidating as to where you go next. And so we did want to provide a bit more support on that. So we have our two different options then that we can help you with the creation and optimization of your videos. So if you work with a Google team, we have a creative production service that can edit and help you create some videos for free. And then the second is we have creative partners and tools to help you get going. So does anybody here have a Google team that they work with? A couple of you? So for those of you who do, what we have is a video production service. And so with this, what we can do is take any existing ads that you have. So if you've got maybe a TV creative or a 15-minute long B-roll footage, we can edit that down and make it YouTube for Action friendly. We can also take static assets like you can see here and animate them into a video that you see on the right. So this is free. You'll just need to reach out to your Google team if you'd like more information. Now the second is for people who have absolutely no assets, or maybe you don't have a Google team to get started with, and these are our video production partners. So with the YouTube Creative Directory, what we've been doing is looking for video production partners. So these are people that we have trained up and we've vetted, we've tested their creative to say, yep, these guys are pretty good, and we've trained them specifically on the action formats as well. And so with this, if you go to youtube.com/ads, you can see a directory of partners that we're continuing to expand on and to add new partners with. And so with this, what you can do is target, if you wanted to do a really cheap creative where you're just taking some stock footage and animating that very quickly, all the way to having someone come out to your facility and do full storyboarding and production of your videos. So there's really the full gambit there if you'd like to take a look, again, at youtube.com/ads. So before I leave you, if you're really, really excited to get going today, what I wanted to do was leave you with a few best practices as you're looking at setting up a YouTube for Action campaign. So I know I've talked through a lot, so I want to give you just 5 key tips of where I've seen people really mess this up. So the first is I would highly recommend creating a new Google Ads account for your YouTube activity. This is going to help you a lot in terms of organization and optimization, and it's also going to make your measurement and attribution a lot better. The second thing I would do is make sure you're using a Google Ads tag, and this is probably the number one, should have big, bold, when I talk to clients about this. As I said earlier, we did a huge overhaul to the back end to be able to accurately track conversions. This came from the Google Ads end of things. It hasn't yet come to Google Analytics, so if you are tracking conversions, right now they can only be tracked accurately with a Google Ads tag. So please, please don't use Analytics. We're getting there, but not yet. The third is to follow the best practices when it comes to creative. I know I spent about 10 minutes looking at creative, and as I'll say, this is hugely important to make sure that you're not just taking an ad that you have from like a TV campaign and popping it on there. You do really need to optimize for YouTube. That will really, really improve the performance of the campaign. Fourth is to optimize towards one goal. I know I mentioned this a bit earlier, but this is where I've seen people who can't necessarily agree on what the goal of their campaign is. Some want awareness, some want sales. You try and optimize towards both, and no one's happy because it's really hard to measure towards opposite sides of the spectrum. So optimize towards one goal. If you want to do an awareness campaign and an action campaign, just put them in separate campaigns. Then you can optimize away, but don't try and do it within one campaign. And then last but not least, you want to make sure your objective, so whatever action it is that you're tracking, you're targeting, so the audience that you're going after, and your creative align. If you've got an awareness creative and a really big branding goal and your creative is somewhere in the middle, it's going to be really hard to optimize. So you want to make sure your whole strategy aligns towards that objective. And then last but not least, I promise I'm almost done talking here, I'm going to talk about wrapping it up. So 3 key things if you take away nothing else for today. And the first is that the majority of time, the majority of your consumers and your potential customers' time is going to be spent on digital video. Will you be there? The second is that YouTube for Action was created for performance-oriented businesses. It's not just about those views and impressions anymore. If you want any type of action, we can now drive that with YouTube for Action. And then last but not least, we've got support in place, including video and creative support to help you get started with it today. So that's it for me for today. I believe we've got questions for the remainder of the time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Quick show of the paddles. Green, if you feel you've learned something here this morning.
Oh, good.
Oh, wonderful. Not a red in the house. Or not a red anyone's willing to put up anyway. Thank you so much, Kelsey. That was fantastic. We do have a little bit of time for questions. So this is your chance. Anything you've felt a burning desire to ask about all things YouTube and video. We have a mic here that we'll throw around. So okay, we have a question. So we have one at the front here. Right?
Yep. There's one over there as well.
Hi. Just in terms of being mobile first, how do you feel about portrait and landscape?
Portrait and landscape, yeah. So you can definitely do both. I believe we introduced it at the end of last year. And what we find is that it works really well if you have both together in the same campaign. So don't do just a vertical video. You want to make sure you've got both. But if you have both together, we do have a lot of case studies of it working really well. I would say if you have to prioritize, portrait.
Okay.
Question up at the back here on the left-hand side, I think. I'm really glad I'm not in charge of throwing that around. That was my main fear this morning.
Just for the lead, acquire leads piece you talked about, is that available in Ireland yet, or is it just US?
It's currently available in the UK, Germany, and France, and EMEA, but we're expanding to a lot of new countries at the moment.
Do you have a timeline on that for Ireland? Do you know? No, not now. Okay, cool.
I never trust our product timelines. they tend to throw me off.
worries.
So no, we don't have a timeline yet.
And just quick on the CPA targeting bit, I mean, it works very effective on search when you have a lot of volume. It's not, if you get 5 conversions a month, it's no good, obviously. What kind of volume do you think you need for YouTube ads?
I would say
Within reason, I know there's no magic number.
Yeah, I would say best practice is if you can get 50 conversions. What I typically see is people might start with upper funnel conversions. So rather than going for straight sales, we might go with leads or views of a key page, add to cart, those kinds of things.
Makes sense, yeah. Okay, cool.
You can also use maximize conversions. That's now rolled out of beta. So if you don't have enough data to use target CPA, you can still bid towards trying to get as many conversions as you can within your budget. So that has a lot lower requirement on the number of conversions.
Great.
Perfect. Okay. There's one up here as well. Do you still have your question? Yeah, there's one. Sorry to make you run around. Yeah, just right here.
Brilliant, thank you. I was told at a course a couple of years ago that if you advertised on YouTube and people skipped on, didn't watch it for 5 seconds, then as an advertiser you then don't have to pay for those eyeballs on your ad, on your brand. Is that still the case?
So it's going to depend on which bidding strategy that you choose. If you're using a CPA target, we're going for viewable impressions bidding, but it's impressions of people more likely to convert.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, there are a lot of software and which is the advertise block, especially focus on YouTube. So even I can find a software on the Chrome store. So how do you think this situation or how to solve this problem?
So when people are blocking the ads, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say we haven't really seen a huge impact as of yet with the people who are not watching that, and there's still plenty of people who are available. Instead, we've got 1.9 billion who are there and watching ads. So we haven't seen that run an impact yet. I'm definitely above my head to predict what that's going to look like in the future.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Questions?
Oh, yes.
Just over here.
Hi, this may be a silly question. I'm just curious, when you talk about people who have a Google team, is that meant for bigger businesses? Like if you're a solopreneur, you probably wouldn't have a Google team. Can you just explain that?
You might have a Google team. If you call into the support center, they can link you if you do have a team.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we've got anyone from big businesses to smaller businesses as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Perfect.
It's the last chance. Anything else to cover? Okay. Great. Well, thank you all so much. I will try and do the final wrap up in 6 seconds, like our bumper ads, which are a great way to come back to somebody you've spoken to on YouTube and drive recall of a message. So in 6 seconds, thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Please fill in the feedback form. You'll get access then to all of the content that we had today. Míle maith go bhfuil fad agus lán bhaile.